Grammar time. Grammar time. Assalamu alaikum everybody, this is your brother, friend and sometimes a bit strange Arabic teacher, and a very warm welcome back to another video here on my YouTube channel, the Arabic with Sam channel. How are you guys doing? Today we have another episode of the Grammar Time. This is a show in which we kind of break down sort of 4 or 5 grammar mistakes that I've seen regularly made throughout the week, and we go to town on them. So just to bring them to your attention, inshallah, in case you're making these mistakes, yeah, and we can iron them out. So let's get the tablet working, and then we will get on with it, because I've found 4 this week. Usually we do 5. This week's been a good week, so we've only actually found 4. Yeah, so yeah, we'll just get stuck into it. In terms of announcements, the only announcement is that you guys are awesome. You guys have chosen to learn Arabic, and that means that you're awesome. So that's the only announcement that I really need to make. So let's get into it. What is our first mistake? What is our first khata, our first mushkila? Our first khata of the week is this. There is an elif in the Arabic language, and we use this elif for a number of different reasons. And sometimes an elif has a hamza sitting on top of it, and when it does that, it's actually more important that it's a hamza than that it is an elif. So, for example, when we have this at the beginning of sentences, this is hamzatul istifham. This is a hamza in which we are asking a question about things. For example, in the beginning of the Medina books, if you're studying the Medina books, you'll have sentences like this. أهذا بيت? أهذا بيت? Is this a house? I heard people say to me in the gym when I was in Palestine, ألست رجلا? Are you not a man? ألست رجلا? Cool. So the mistake that I see very regularly is this. People saying leaving a space, and then saying laysa. The example was somebody wrote out an ayah from Surah At-Teen, أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَحْكَمِ الْحَاكِمِينَ. It's the last ayah of that surah, and said and then laysa, and left a little space in between there. And that's very common, a lot of people think that, and I mentioned in yesterday's video with the walkthrough of the Joha text that a lot of people just don't know that. It's a very small detail that you can change really quickly and just up-level your Arabic, right? So make sure that when you're using that hamza, using that elif with a hamza at the beginning to ask questions, then make sure that it's actually connected to the word, and you're not sort of treating just an elif on its own as a whole word. So that was the first thing. Let's move swiftly on to the second thing, inshallah. So when we use what we call demonstrative pronouns, things like this, like هذا, like هذه, things like ذلك, when we're saying that, ذلك, and tilka, ذلك and tilka, obviously those have clear genders, right? And they do in the dual as well. But when we come into the plural and we're saying this, so we're actually saying these, okay? There is only one, okay? And we say, and it's like this, because I'm saying this and there's kind of multiple mistakes in this. There's kind of multiple mistakes in this. I think it's a good one for us to do. When we're saying these, this is how it's written, and this is all the components of it. We have ha'u, la'i. A lot of people find that really hard to read because, unfortunately, and it does my beginner students' head in, that this la, depending on what kind of font you're reading, sometimes la is kind of written like that, sometimes it's kind of written like that, sometimes it's just written like that. There's a whole lot of different ways that people do like a la and an elif. And so that's the first thing that confuses people. And then having 2 hamzas in the same word, and then this little elif in there being sort of squeezed in the middle. But that's what it is. We have ha'u la'i, ha'u la'i. So firstly, the first mistake that people often make is sort of not quite being able to say it properly. But another thing is not understanding that it's used for both masculine and feminine, right? Like for these, we don't have ha'u la'i for the masculine, then ha'dhi la'i or something for the feminine. Yeah, there's not that. Okay, it's just these for masculine or feminine. So masculine or feminine, okay? It can be either ha'ula'i. You can have you know, هؤلاء الرجال, you know, these men, هؤلاء النساء, these women. You can have either of those, okay? هؤلاء is for both masculine and feminine. Let's move swiftly on to the next one, inshallah. This one I find, this one is particularly common among native speakers. I mean, when I say native speakers, I don't mean Arabs who have been raised and educated in the Arab world, because they wouldn't make this mistake, but people who speak Arabic at home, like maybe they speak Amiyya at home with their mum and dad, but aren't so accustomed to writing. So they might learn very simply, they might spot very simply that usually Ta Marbuta is kind of a sign for something being feminine. Okay, and that is true a lot of the time, and that's a good rule that will serve you a lot of the time. But a lot of the time, native speakers, especially when they're dealing with words that are obviously feminine, okay? So let's say something like, for example, a girl or sister, okay? Not all feminine words have a ta marbuta. Not every word that has a ta marbuta is feminine. And, you know, sometimes you even have feminine words that end in a t sound. Okay, they end in a ta sound, but it doesn't mean they're a ta marbuta. Okay, so let me demonstrate for you. So sister, we have the word which is ukht, ukhtun, and the plural of which is akhawat, ukhtun, and then girl is a bintun. Both of these words are feminine, okay, but both men in ta. But quite often, I'll put this in red because it's the wrong thing to do. Quite often, some of my students will say ukht, like that, or really you'd have to say that ukhatun. You know, if you have a ta marbuta, the letter before it would have to be a fatha. But they say like ukht with a ta marbuta, or they say bint with a ta marbuta like that. Okay, so the first little rule that you need to be aware of, if that's something that you do in your Arabic, is to know that ta marbuta will always have a fatha before it. Okay, so if you were to hear a word like ghurfatun, you have pretty good reason to think that that is a ta marbuta on the end. Yeah, you have pretty good reason to believe that, if there's a fatha before it. But with ukhtun, it couldn't be a ta marbuta, yeah? Or with bintun, it just couldn't be a ta marbuta in that case. Yeah, so that's a really common mistake, you know, among people who think, okay, they hear a ta on the end of it, they know it's feminine, people sort of make the jump to assume that it is a feminine word. Those are the only two examples that I can think of that actually applying to, but I've seen it really commonly in, you know, often here in the UK, parents who are Arabs and speak fluent Arabic and are educated in Arabic, often when they have their kids who only know Amiyya, often their fusha-ifying of them is put upon me. So that's something that I find very common among people who are from native-speaking families. The last thing, this is the last mistake, this is really common actually, is the genders for the colours. Colours, you know, colours, I think I mentioned them last week actually in grammar time, that they have some really funky grammar to them. Like, so firstly, they have a whole set of nouns, a whole set of verbs as well, you know, like they form 9 verbs. Verbs like ahmarra, to become red, yahmarru, to become red. There's a whole lot of verbs with them as well, which are really rare, but interesting. But actually, the main issue that I'm talking about here, I'll give you the main issue that the mistake is, and then we'll kind of explore some of the things around it, because, yeah, we'll do that, and if we have any time afterwards, inshallah, we'll get a bit more into a few other things. But the issue that I had is, for example, let's take a word like ahmar. Ahmar. A lot of the time, people know the colour ahmar, right? People know this colour. People know it's the colour red, right? But then when we come to have to do the feminine of it, first mistake is that a lot of people think that we treat it like any other word and we say ahmara. We put a ta marbuta on the end. Ahmara. Or a lot of people here have heard it, okay? Or they say hamra with an alif maqsura. Hamra. Both of those are wrong. Yeah, both of those are wrong, but for different reasons. This one is assumed that the colours behave like other normal, regular nouns, and hamra is just a written down version of how it sounds when people use it in Amiyya especially. Actually what it is this. Hamra, hamra'u. Both of these are mamnu' min as-sarf, so both of them would never ever take tanween. Any use of tanween with either of these words is false. You can't use it. Yeah, so that's it, okay? The good way of remembering it is in Surah Al-Baqarah in the Quran. There is a part that talks about the yellow cow. Baqaratun safra. Baqaratun safra. And what that's doing here is you have the word asfar with a sad, asfar. asfaru as the colour yellow, and the feminine of which is safra. Safra. Baqaratun safra. Yeah, so that's a good example actually, because we have baqaratun, okay, safra'u. You know, normally, just in a normal phrase, we'd have, if for example we're saying like a big cow, yeah, we'd say baqaratun kabiratun. Yeah, we'd have atun on the end, so agreed indefiniteness, case, gender, and number. But with safra, we can't have tun on the end. Yeah, because it's mamnu' min as-sarf. We just have baqaratun safra'u. That's kind of just, excuse me, that's just kind of a repetition of the mistake that I mentioned last week. But yeah, so there are often mistakes to do with creating the feminine. Just know that this is the pattern. Just know that it ends in a. So safra, zarqa, khudra, hamra, bayda, sauda. You know, those are the way of making the feminine of the colours. And then another thing is they don't have plurals. Bear in mind as well. I don't know where I've seen students trying to make the colours plural. Like when do you talk about humans being colours like that? Like, I know there are terms that refer to the black people, to refer to white people, you know, and even to refer to like yellow people, but referring to Europeans as yellow. I know there is that, but you don't use these exact terms for that. You use sort of derived words from that. But I know of people saying like I think it was a student writing about the Red Indians or something, and it was like al-ahmarun or something. They just put the una on the end, you know, just as if it was a normal jam'a salim, but it is not. You just use the singular. Yeah, you just use the singular. You know, that would only be brought into question when you're describing groups of humans as colours, which you rarely do. Yeah, you very rarely do anyway, and certainly not green and blue unless the Smurfs. And who's green? Smurfs are blue. Simpsons are yellow. I don't know who we could be talking about. It could be green. Phone in. Tell us what people are green. Well, orange doesn't take this pattern anyway. Oompa Loompas. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let's end the video there, inshallah, because that's everything that I wanted to talk about. We don't need to go into too much detail of colours of mythical, fictional, or indeed real life people. We'll end the video there. Hope you've enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to come back next Thursday for next week's episode of Grammar Time. This has been episode 4. Next week, obviously, will be episode 5, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to help me out by subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. If you have already and you have multiple YouTube accounts, sign into all of your YouTube accounts and start and subscribe to the channel. And do all of that and like the channel as well. And that's it. See you guys in the next video. Have a really, really nice evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.